Have you ever looked at a woman who lives alone and wondered why? No boyfriend, no partner, no interest in chasing anyone. And yet, there's a calmness about her, something quietly powerful. It's not sadness. It's not bitterness. It's something else, something that makes people uncomfortable, even if they can't explain why. We've been taught that a woman alone must be missing something, that she's either heartbroken, emotionally damaged, or too difficult to love. But what if that's not the truth? What if she's not broken, just done pretending? Because a woman who chooses to live without a man isn't giving up on love. She's walking towards something deeper, toward herself. And that's the part most people don't see. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." She's not explaining anything. She's simply living. And in her silence, there's a quiet rebellion, a rejection of roles she never agreed to play. She's not running away from connection. She's stepping into clarity. She's not afraid of being alone. She's afraid of becoming someone she's not, just to keep someone else around. So when she closes the door behind her at night, with no one waiting on the other side, it's not emptiness she walks into. It's peace. And that peace, it didn't come cheap. There's something unsettling about a woman who doesn't seek validation. She doesn't post thirst traps. She doesn't fish for compliments. She's not waiting for a message to make her day. And the reason why is simple. She already knows her worth. Seneca once said, "The wise man is self-sufficient, not because he wishes for nothing, but because he needs nothing." That's her. She's not void of desire. She's just no longer dependent on it. She remembers what it felt like to give everything to someone who gave almost nothing back. She remembers how exhausting it was to constantly wonder where she stood, or who else was standing next to him when he stopped replying. And at some point, she made a decision, not out of pain, but out of clarity, to stop proving herself to people who never deserved access to her in the first place. To stop measuring her value by how wanted she felt, and start measuring it by how aligned she was with her own truth. She doesn't need a man to tell her she's beautiful. She knows she is, because she's seen herself in the mirror on the worst days and still chose to show up for life anyway. And that kind of self-recognition, it's not arrogance, it's liberation. Most people don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't need saving. She doesn't ask for help unless it's truly needed. She doesn't make a scene just to feel seen. She doesn't break down so someone can put her back together. And that terrifies them. Because for centuries, society has sold a version of womanhood rooted in dependency. Emotional, financial, spiritual. A woman was expected to be completed by someone else. But what happens when she completes herself? Epictetus warned, "Only the educated are free." And freedom, real freedom, is unsettling when you've been raised to control, rescue, or define someone else. She doesn't need to be told what to wear, what to feel, when to settle down. She's already had those voices in her head, and she chose to silence them. And now, her silence is the loudest thing in the room. Because when a woman stops performing and starts simply being, it shatters the illusions others depend on. Men who need to be needed feel useless. Women still craving approval feel exposed. The system itself, built on fragile roles and expectations, starts to tremble. And yet, she remains still. Not rebellious, not defensive, just firm, just real, just herself. Love used to be something she chased. She used to hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. That if she just gave a little more, tolerated a little longer, things might finally feel right. But Stoicism teaches a different path. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. She no longer tries to control how others see her, or beg for a place in their hearts. Because real love isn't something you earn by shrinking yourself. It's not a transaction. It's not a rescue. It's a choice. And now, she chooses. She chooses who gets access to her world. She chooses which energies to allow in. And most importantly, she chooses herself first, not out of pride, but out of principle. When someone offers her attention, she doesn't get excited. She gets observant. She knows that words are cheap, and consistency is rare. She's done confusing intensity with intimacy, chaos with chemistry, attention with affection. And because of that, many mistake her calm for coldness. They think she's too picky, too distant, too guarded. But what they call walls are just standards. And what they see as rejection is simply her refusing to settle. She doesn't raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't compete for attention, doesn't perform to impress. doesn't chase anyone to be noticed. And yet, when she enters a room, something shifts. It's not because she demands presence. It's because she is presence. There's a stillness about her that's louder than noise. A clarity that needs no announcement. A kind of groundedness that comes from having faced herself in solitude and survived. Seneca once said, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach." She knows that. She lives that. That's why she no longer grasps for approval or applause. She's not in a hurry to prove anything to anyone. Her value is not on trial. Her worth isn't up for negotiation. And this quiet confidence is what unsettles the world. Because we're used to seeing women perform, trying to be likable, soft, charming. But she doesn't perform. She doesn't soften herself for comfort. She stands as she is, calm, aware, and untouched by pretense. Not cold, just centered. Not aloof, just selective. You won't see her begging to be seen, because her presence alone already speaks volumes. Most people search for healing in someone else. A new relationship, a fresh distraction, a quick fix to cover the wounds. But not her. She turned inward. While others scrolled, drank, flirted, or ran, she sat still. She listened. Not to the world, but to herself. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free, than your own soul." And it was in that stillness, in that quiet, where she began to see clearly. The ghosts she had avoided for years, old heartbreaks, childhood wounds, false narratives about love and worth, began to surface. But instead of running, she faced them. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't poetic. It was raw, uncomfortable, at times unbearable. But it was real. And the Stoic path has never promised comfort, only truth. She realized that no partner could fix the parts of her she refused to acknowledge. No romantic gesture could rewrite the past. The only way out was through. And so she walked through it, alone but not abandoned, silent but not lost. She didn't need someone to hold her hand. She needed to hold her own heart, and finally stop outsourcing her peace. And in doing so, she found a kind of strength that no one could ever give her, because she built it herself. Pain used to break her. Now it refines her. There was a time when every disappointment felt like a collapse. A canceled text, a lukewarm apology, the slow fading of someone who once said, "I'll never leave." She used to internalize it all. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I'm not enough. But not anymore, because Stoicism taught her something most people never learn. It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That's Epictetus, and that one insight changed everything. She began to see the pattern, not in others, but in herself. The way she overgave, the way she tolerated confusion as if it were normal, the way she mistook pain for passion. And slowly the tears stopped burning and started teaching. She no longer sees heartbreak as a punishment. She sees it as preparation, a necessary friction that polished her into something harder to shake, harder to fool, and impossible to manipulate. Now when someone ghosts her, she doesn't collapse. When someone plays games, she doesn't chase. She sees clearly and walks away, not in anger but in clarity. She no longer fears pain, because pain is no longer her enemy. It's her mentor. She doesn't want a hero. She wants a witness. In the past, she dreamed of someone who would pull her out of darkness. Someone who would fix everything, heal everything, make everything feel right. But that version of love was built on illusion, on lack, not wholeness. Now she knows better. She's not looking for someone to rescue her, because she's not drowning anymore. She swam through the storm. She reached the shore, alone. And now, she doesn't need rescue. She needs recognition. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The man she hopes to meet doesn't need to charm her. He just needs to be present, honest, and grounded in himself. She doesn't want sweet words. She wants silent consistency. She doesn't need extravagant gestures. She needs real energy. A man who doesn't flinch when faced with her truth, who doesn't shrink in the presence of her strength. She doesn't want someone to complete her. She wants someone who's already complete. And until that man arrives, she's not waiting, she's growing. She's not desperate, she's discerning. And that makes all the difference. Because when a woman stops needing and starts choosing, she becomes the kind of person only the real can approach. They say she's built walls. They say she's closed off, hard to reach, maybe even damaged. But the truth is, she hasn't built a prison. She's built a sanctuary. There's a difference. She's not hiding from love. She's protecting the peace it took her years to earn. The kind of peace that only comes after chaos, after letting the wrong people too close for too long. Stoicism teaches us the value of boundaries, not as defense, but as self-respect. Seneca wrote, "No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have." And that's exactly how she lives now. She doesn't crave access. She doesn't fear missing out. She doesn't chase noise. She honors silence. She honors the version of herself that finally said, "No more." No more emotional begging. No more shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. No more pouring into cups that never fill hers in return. So yes, she might say no more often now. She might leave early. She might stay home when everyone else goes out. But don't mistake that for fear. It's wisdom, learned the hard way. She doesn't need to speak loudly, because her life already says everything. She walks into a room and people feel something, though they can't name it. Some call it confidence. Others mistake it for arrogance. But it's neither. It's alignment. There's nothing louder than someone who lives in full alignment with themselves. No mask. No performance. No need for applause. Just presence. And that kind of presence, it unsettles people, because most are still living in roles they didn't choose. Still bending for approval. Still performing for love. But she's done all that and walked away from it. Now she simply lives. On her terms. Without explanation. Without compromise. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." She did exactly that. And now, she doesn't convince, she doesn't chase, she doesn't even explain. Her existence is the message. She's a quiet reminder that peace is possible, without pretending. That love is not the same as dependence. That a woman who chooses herself terrifies the world far more than one who begs to be chosen. She doesn't disrupt with noise. She disrupts by being. There's a reason she seems unshakable. It's not because nothing hurt her. It's because everything did, and she's still here. She's loved men who made her feel invisible. She's stayed too long in rooms where she was only tolerated. She's whispered her needs into voids that never echoed back. But through it all, through the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the silent dismissals, she kept walking. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Her pain didn't stop her. It became the path. She didn't bypass the fire, she walked straight into it. And she burned, she broke, and then she rebuilt. Not into someone colder, but into someone clearer. Now when people ask why she's so calm, so grounded, so discerning, she smiles quietly. Because they don't see what it took to get here. They don't know how many nights she cried herself into clarity. How many mornings she woke up determined not to settle again. How many old versions of herself she had to bury, just to breathe in her own skin again. She didn't come out of the storm untouched. She came out with scars. But those scars, they're her proof that she's not only whole, she's forged. There was a time when she couldn't say no. Not because she didn't want to, but because she was afraid. Afraid of being seen as difficult. Afraid of being left. Afraid of disappointing someone, anyone. But not anymore. Now every no she speaks is not rejection, it's recognition. It's her recognizing what doesn't align. What doesn't nourish. What doesn't respect the work she's done to become who she is now. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And it takes bravery to say no in a world that rewards compliance, especially when you're a woman. But she doesn't fear being misunderstood anymore. She fears self-abandonment more than she fears someone walking away. So when she says no to casual attention, to shallow conversations, to emotionally unavailable men, she's not being harsh. She's being honest. She's not pushing people away. She's pulling herself closer. She's not bitter. She's just finally clear. And the cost of that clarity? It's solitude. It's long nights with no text. It's walking away when everything inside her wants to stay. But she pays the price gladly, because she knows now that peace is always worth more than company. She no longer fits the mold. Not the damsel waiting to be rescued. Not the woman who bends, shrinks, and smiles through discomfort just to be loved. That version of her died, quietly but permanently. What remains is something the world doesn't quite know how to name, because it doesn't play by the old rules. She's no longer chasing fairy tales. She's not performing femininity for validation. She doesn't measure her worth by how many people want her. Instead, she measures it by how often she stays true to herself. Epictetus said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." And she has. She's adorned herself with boundaries, with depth, with self-trust. And no, it doesn't sparkle on Instagram. But it's real. She is no longer half of anything. She is whole. And that wholeness rewrites the narrative. If love ever returns to her life, it won't be to complete her. It will be to complement her. She's not searching for someone to fix the broken parts. She's already done that work. What she longs for now is a bond that breathes, not suffocates. That challenges, but never manipulates. A love that holds without gripping. That sees her shadow and doesn't run. That grows with her, not in place of her. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "To love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony." That's the kind of love she's aligned with now. The kind that flows with her nature, not against it. And she'll wait for it, not with impatience, but with peace. Because anything less than that is no longer welcome in her life. She's not alone. She's with herself. And after everything she's been through, that is more than enough. She no longer begs for attention. She doesn't audition for affection. She doesn't perform for belonging. She simply is. The world tells her she's missing something, that a woman without a man is incomplete. But she knows now, it's not about who's beside you, it's about who's inside you. Seneca once said, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." And she lives each day, not waiting, not pleasing, not proving, but just being. She doesn't chase love anymore, because when love finally comes, it won't come to rescue her. It'll come to walk beside her. In celebration, not salvation. You want to know what really unsettles people? It's not her solitude. It's the peace she's found inside it. She's no longer driven by fear of missing out, no longer haunted by the silence. She embraces it, becomes it, and that makes her ungovernable. You can't control a woman who doesn't fear being alone. You can't manipulate someone who's made peace with herself. You can't impress someone who's no longer starving for love. She's not unreachable. She's just no longer willing to abandon herself, just to be touched. And maybe that's what makes her most dangerous. She doesn't need to be saved. She doesn't need to be chosen. She doesn't even need to be understood. She just needs to be respected. And in a world that still asks women to shrink, that's nothing short of revolutionary.